Hello and welcome to this special presentation, The Spirit of the Ceremonial, the Gallup Intertribal Ceremonial. I'm Colton Schoen from KOB TV in Albuquerque. I'm also a member of the Navajo Nation. Let me introduce myself in Dene. She Colton Schoen yinshke, toihid linin shle, torich itni bashishchi, pia ani dashache, tabahan dashanele. I am the Water Flows Together clan, born for the Bitter Water People clan. And please allow me to introduce you to the amazing people of this region.
And I'm Tara Gatewood, a tribal member of Asleta Pueblo and host and producer of Indigenous Foundation Music and Culture Show, Hinamam Kimam Herimba. We'll also look at performers from the Southwest and beyond who are keeping their tribe's music, songs, dance, and culture alive.
In the next hour, we'll discover the history and the future of the Gallup Intertribal Ceremonial, a premier event in the Southwest that is bringing Native American and Indigenous people together for almost 100 years. We'll look at the event that inspires immense community support and people involved who demonstrate the fortitude of the Native American tribes in New Mexico and beyond. The Intertribal Indian Ceremonial was founded by the Kirk brothers in 1922. It's one of New Mexico's oldest events. In the 1920s, the railroads were bringing a new industry to the area, tourism. The first ceremonials were organized by trading posts, businesses that swapped needed goods to the Native Americans in exchange for their rugs, pots, and jewelry. These first gatherings brought more tourists to the area and contributed to the creation of the market for Native American art. The parade began as an arrival procession of Navajo, Zuni, Acoma, Apache, and tribal members from other states. Nightly dances, illuminated by car headlights, shared a culture that most had never seen, and that captivated tourists. The rodeo originally focused more on Native American games and horsemanship, as well as wagon and foot races, and would become what is now a traditional rodeo.
My first memories actually was when I was a little girl and I had to make clothes and sew by hand, so I would get prepared for the ceremonial. So I would take a bundle and just sew them by hand as I was taking care of the sheep.
It was about us camping out and getting ready to trade with other Native Americans. You have Zuni, Hopi, Laguna. Everybody came from miles around to trade. And everybody seemed to know where they set up every year. This is your spot, this is my spot. Everybody knew.
I remember you see all these bands playing like a different Navajo tribal band, a Zuni tribal band. Zunis riding their donkeys all dressed in white.
My grandmother was at the parade with her sisters and some of her cousins, and they were dressed up. So my grandfather was standing a little ways from her. All of a sudden, the wind blew and blew her hat off, and he took his hat off. So then he put his hat on her head. So that's how my grandparents, her parents, met.
Yeah.
My very first memory is we were living in Gannett, Arizona, and we were coming into town, and I noticed all horseback and wagons just galore. One of the things I remember most is the sun went down in the evening. You could see campfires all around town on the hillsides. And then the drums would start up and the singing and the chanting. If you were here, if you've seen it, you never will forget it.
I remembered Ceremonial as a boy. A lot of people from different areas. I remember the coal burning train blowing their whistles, and it used to scare us.
I had a grandma that lived up on the cliffs, up on top of the ridge there, and she had a wagon, a two-horse wagon, and she would participate in the ceremonial every year. The wagon races with my grandma, so I could still hear her screaming right now, you know, standing, not even sitting, with a wagon going about 40 miles an hour. I could hear her all the way to the campsite.
One of the things that I've really enjoyed when have been researching the ceremonial way back into the 1920s is seeing our ancestors in their regalia, and I wonder if those are some of my relatives. I see regalia that we still wear, that we still use, we still carry on those traditions in our singing and dancing.
Even before traders organized the earlier years of the ceremonial, Native American tribes met in late summer. Agricultural tribes brought harvested crops, meats, and bread to trade for silver, pottery, and other goods. In the 1800s, settlers built rugged outposts to trade for goods, creating a larger market for the artwork of the indigenous people.
I'm the fourth generation of the Tanner trading family, brought up on the res, and our grandpa, he told us a long time ago, he says, you boys buy everything that the Navajos produce and sell them all that they need, and that's what we've done.
Richardson Trading Post has been in this location in Gallup for 108 years, but actually they opened years prior to that in Arizona, and it is the oldest and largest continual operating trading post in existence.
The role of the trader today, it's still try to get the best material art-wise that the artists need, help them in every way you can. That's where the ceremonial comes in, does such a great job, and always has, is giving those artists exposure. I've always felt like my job was to promote that artist and get him the best opportunity and exposure to the white man's world that I could.
We really appreciate the artists because, first of all, we need the items that they make. We need their goods, and we respect what they do, and we appreciate their talent. They're my friends, and many of them include me in their family activities.
When you love something, I don't look at it as work. I just love it. Just the interaction and visiting with my in-laws. Let me explain the in-laws to you. The Navajos, when you start in the business and start getting more and more involved, they give you a Navajo name. They give me the name Hayahiyazi, which is the little in-law. Basically, the in-law is the one that's supposed to help out. So when they have problems, they come see me, and I try to help out.
The traders and the artisan. Some people may look at traders as making a living off of us, but traders play a major role in promotion. Again, Native Americans weren't taught to go out, to promote yourself, to be loud, to be out there, to be outspoken. We make stuff, in private.
I love the art so much that I have a hard time saying no. That's probably what motivated me most, to get collectors involved and get those two together. And so I've been collecting for well over 50 years. Got a collector's room by appointment only that's very special pieces that my wife and I built up through the years.
Every year we see an increase in tourists that come to Gallup because it is known as the Indian capital of the world.
But the traders, they're the ones that really knows how to deal with tourists, people that buys from the Navajos, and it seems that it's always been like that to me. And that's how I learned over the years that what the trader really stands for. He kind of like puts his little personal touch to it.
The traders did help create a market for the goods for ceremonial. At first it was a lot of trading back and forth between the tribes and pueblos and the traders, but as the traders developed their stores and put the beautiful items on display that they had traded for, that really encouraged tourists to come for it.
The artists, especially back in the early days, couldn't afford a big inventory. They'd enter a piece or two, but I would build back some of their best pieces and enter it for them so that they'd get the prize money and the ribbons. And that's why you see all the ribbons, is because it's art that I had bought and held back. I had the honor of handling some of the finest art in the world. I can't even do a stick drawing, but I do know good art when I see it.
A lot of the people that come back to visit it were children. Their grandparents and parents brought them here. We have a lot of photographs that were taken of their parents and grandparents, and they like to come in and see those. And they can take a picture of it now with their phone, and so they have a good picture of their parents and grandparents that they didn't have before. If you haven't seen Richardson Trading Post, it is a treat, and it'll be an experience that you'll never forget. Everything in here is handcrafted by Native Americans, and we want you to come and see it. It's all beautiful, and it's all very special.
Gallup is a hub for some of the finest in Native American art, and here at Red Rock Park, home of the Ceremonial, winning a ribbon could really propel an artist's career, creating more value and more demand for their work. For hundreds of weavers, potters, basket makers, silversmiths, painters, creating art is not just a way to make a living, it's an expression of the soul and also the thread that connects generations.
Lived in Gallup for 25 years. In my first year here, I attended the first ceremonial, and I had never seen so much Native American art. It was just overwhelming to me, with this building full of beautiful jewelry, rugs, kachinas, pottery. I was overwhelmed with it. It was amazing.
A lot of these artists, they do what they do in order to provide for themselves and their family. It's about what's in their mind and what's in their heart that goes into the art.
My mother was a weaver. My grandmother was a weaver. I started when I was about 9 years old. I started from on the fence. So my mother done it, and then she taught me how to do this one. No, you can weave. You don't have to weave outside on the fence. She told me that. I love to weave. I love to do that. And then made me think about a lot of things, how I'm going to do that. And not for the money. It's for enjoy it, you know, to enjoy the line and to finish it, and then wow, I've done something good, you know.
Before school starts, I would always take the week off to go to ceremonials with my grandma and see her display of her rug. The first day is when they judge the contest. They put the awards on the arts and all that. Of course, I look through everyone's, but then I go straight to my grandma's to see if she got something good out of it. Then I go over there and there's the big red ribbon, blue ribbons, yellow ribbons, and I'm like, oh wow, and my grandma's just happy, just really kind of that, and I'm just proud and all that.
It is a big deal for the artist to win any sort of a prize, especially first, because many of them that will help them in their pricing in the future. When they win some shows and awards, it gives them a boost, and they become very much sought after.
Well, the first major award I probably won is like ceremony is when I was probably like 12 years old. It was a little boy eating a watermelon, and there was a goat. I was raised on a sheep camp. To pass the time and just to play around, I started sketching the sheep on a piece of paper or paper sack or whatever I can find. One day, my grandmother, she went somewhere and she brought back a sketch pad. She said, if you want to sketch or do it on this paper. And she brought some pencil and eraser. Well, that was a new tool that I discovered. As I gotten older, I got more interested in realistic, type of work, Well, what I've done here is a pencil sketch. I use a real fine point where I use a lot of fine sandpaper to sharpen it. That one day I just sketched him out. So every day I sketch a little bit. You don't see sketching or painting like that anymore. They try to paint Indians, but you always see quarter horses there. But a real Indian pony is different compared to a quarter horse. I want my work, where nobody can't get tired of it. You always find something in there. So if you say this was my best, to me, that you're kind of like lying to yourself, because there's always something better.
When you pick up a piece of jewelry, there's an instant connection to it. A lot of our soul goes into what we make. When we are copied, like from far away, it hurts. It's like a piece of our tradition, our heritage is being stolen from us. It is hard sometimes to part with some of your jewelry, especially if the ones that you really like. You know, our elders used to tell us, you know, what your favorite piece of jewelry is how the gods identify you. They say, oh, here comes my son. That's what I was taught. And I believe in it. I can duplicate the design, but this stone is what identifies you. It identifies me, and I receive my blessings every day for wearing that stone. And I believe it. I believe that turquoise runs so deep into the earth that it's the bloodlines of Mother Earth. You begin to realize there's something more to it than just a piece of rock. It's a wonderful thing that God has blessed me with, is to be an artist, to share what I know with others. And I always, you know, in my prayers, I always say, God bless those that have purchased my jewelry. May their day be blessed.
Ceremonial focuses not just on artisans, songs, and dances. It showcases other history and skills vital to daily life in indigenous communities. This could range from bread making through horsemanship. The ceremonial rodeo pays tribute to the tenacity of today's elders who tamed wild horses to pull wagons and herd livestock, and demonstrations share the traditional ways of life.
Ceremonial is very educational to everybody, regardless of their background. I think it's very important for young people to know that if you come from indigenous background, you need to learn your own ways so that you will progress with it as a person.
The different dance groups that you see, whether it's a ceremonial or different places, you see the little tiny kids and people marvel at the fact that they're dancing in time, they're doing exactly what they're supposed to do, and that's because they grew up doing it.
And just knowing how to handle different kind of animals. They're sacred to us. In order to have those in abundance, it took a lot of prayers, songs, blessings, and all of that.
Of course, it's in our culture to care for animals that we acquire. By taking care of the animals, all the grooming, the caring for an animal, I think it builds up a lot of character in them. We have chickens and sheep, cattle, horses. I like doing things like that, raising animals. I used to read some books about some cowboys. That got me interested in rodeo. And of course, there's a lot of wild horses around here to practice on. And that's what we did. We'd ride cows, steers, bulls, horses, mules. And after you complete your ride, they used to give you a silver dollar. If it's a good bucking animal, they give you 2 or 3 silver dollars.
I was almost a full-time rodeo cowboy at one time, and I participated in the ceremonial. It teaches discipline. It teaches endurance. Also, the way of ranching.
That's just one of the photographs that I was in my prime, and it just brings good memory back. And of course, there are other pictures, and to think back, the friends I made with a lot of people, a lot of cowboys I know.
I raised paint horses, black and white paint horses. I like to think of them as, you know, holy creatures. They're somewhat spiritual to me. If you pick up a horse's hoof, on the bottom there's an arrowhead, and arrowhead represents protection, to protect against evil.
I believe it was a good life. It was physical demanding, but of course we always like to challenge, see what we can do. And our love of animals, it's another way to say that, you know, you really enjoyed your life, love your life.
My name is Angeline Johnson. I'm from Zuni, New Mexico. I'm my assistant. Jessica, she's my niece. She's my helper. We make bread. Not only bread, we make also cinnamon rolls, fruit pies. If we have enough time, we make cookies too. At night, we have to do a starter, a sourdough starter. It's been passed down from generation to generation, and I learned to bake bread around my mid-teens. My mom always made bread, and she used to come here during ceremonial, my late mom, and that's how I learned. And I teach my girls the same way my mom taught me, and I also taught my granddaughter to the whole process and cleaning out the ovens too. Okay, right now we're gonna start cleaning out our ovens after making the dough. Now we're putting our bread in. Our bread usually takes about, depends on how hot the oven is. And sometimes we like check around after 30 minutes. We'll take the bread out. When it's done, I like to eat it with wieners, corned wieners, or commodity cheese or butter. It brings a lot of memories, especially with my late mom. I'm glad she taught me how to make bread, so I can just easily do it without asking anybody.
For decades, the annual pageant for the Miss Gallup Intertribal Ceremonial Queen has highlighted Native women. It's an opportunity to develop new skills and to show traditional skills as well. The Ceremonial Queen serves as a cultural representative for both Native American and Indigenous peoples and the ceremonial.
Ceremonial Queen is really one of the major pageants in this area. It's really a way for you to learn about yourself and for you to do justice to your Native people, to teach them where you come from and also learn where they come from, and also to bridge the gap throughout Native country.
I didn't know any other tribal groups, only the Navajo people. When I became Miss Navajo is when they took me many places, and they took me to Miss Indian America contest. And I've never seen other tribes as many as I have. Beautiful girls that came out in their traditional regalia. And they talked about their culture, and they spoke their language. That really inspired me and encouraged me that, you know, I can be that way too. And before that, I was very shy. When I was Miss Navajo, Beulah's dad was spying and watching me.
So when she was Miss Navajo Nation, she was in the parade, and the way my dad says it is he was at the parade for the ceremonial, and he saw my mom in the parade. He told his people that he was with, he says, "I'm gonna marry that girl." So he saw her in the parade, and then throughout time, like she said, he saw her other places, and then they ended up getting together.
I decided to enter the Queen contest because I wanted to challenge myself. It was a great opportunity to really work on my modern and traditional skills, such as public speaking. It also allowed me to learn more about my culture and also the culture of the other women that I competed with, and to build that confidence within myself. And I think the best part of every pageant that you compete in is the friendships that you bond with the other girls. Taking on the title of Miss Gallup Intertribal Ceremonial has really allowed me to look within myself and to show hundreds of people and also the judges what kind of person I am as an Indigenous woman and the teachings that I carry. For my platforms, I wanted to bring awareness to domestic violence. We as young Indigenous women, we are constantly evolving, and we have been so blessed to have been able to carry the traditions that we have learned, our language, and also the knowledge that has been bestowed upon us from our ancestors.
Music and dance are celebrated during the ceremonial as tribes share their stories through this art form. Tara, tell us about some of the groups we'll see.
Thanks, Colton. The ceremonial includes many different Indigenous dance groups from regional tribes as well as different countries and continents. It's been intertribal from its creation. As in decades past, children and elders dance in honor of the tribe's traditions. The sounds of drums, singers, and dancers in their exquisite traditional clothing echoes through the canyon walls from the nightly dances, resonating for miles. The Solucion Zuni dancers from Zuni Pueblo, New Mexico, include 4 generations.
We share our social culture, songs and dance, because a lot of people think that the Indians that they see on the old Western movies is the way we still act. The dance is it's a star dance in honor of the heavenly deities that we have here. Long before modern technology, our people used the stars for navigation, the moon as our calendar, and even today we say our spirits used the Milky Way as a path to go in different locations here. The songs and dances that we do have been handed down from traditions to generations, and the kids see what we're doing and they want to do the same, so they started making their own groups, and that's one thing that we're proud of, is that we're setting an example for the young people. We try to promote cultural pride, no matter what culture you come from. Because I always say that, no, without our culture, without our heritage, we're nothing but empty shells inside. It's our culture and our heritage that fills up this shell. No matter where you come from, where you come from, you have traditions, you have culture to learn. You'll see many different tribes just to show and share their culture with the people that come to see the ceremonial. I look at it because it's a 100th anniversary ceremony natin. Sana kanda so akyaton ansa mo ton awi tu.
And from the Hopi Huyapi dance group of Shanopovi in northeastern Arizona, they bring us a women's rights dance. This Hopi dance offers a prayer for rain and blessings for all.
Most of the dances on Hopi is about trying to get some moisture for everybody so people will survive and live a long life, healthy life, and happy life. wish it would rain, and that's what the dance is about. The dance name is Palhikmani, is water drinking girls. It's kind of literally pronouncing it that way, but it's really about getting rain and hoping that we get to drink some of that rain. We are dry farmers and we rely entirely on the rainfall. And when we don't get the winter and we don't get the summer rainfall, we do not see any crop. The more serious dances that involve ceremony are only done on Hopi. This is only a social dance and entertainment portion of the dance. We don't do any ceremonies within the dance because the ceremonies that we do are more sacred and they stay in the village. Buan saya sa kampu imapiu 100th year anniversary yung nika. Piu an sa tamay wangway lolok. An sa piu masusu ahya timay wisni. Yep imahihi to yutam hahakak. Kituki nawad angka es kampu mapiu ahya yefti nangway matak ni ana masusu yung timay wisay yep susu halay ni piu.
Each of the tribe's dances are unique, from the drum style to the clothing to the dialect. The Paulong family and their close friends take part at the ceremonial Navajo song and dance event, which honors the social traditions of Navajo dances.
A legacy, tradition, something that has to be kept going for the sake of the young people and to keep our tradition, cultural going. We call it the two-step. It's called the enemy way ceremony. You know, we take it really, really seriously then. And then it can be also used for entertainment and social dancing. We were taught that there's certain tone, certain wave that you should have, and then the drum. Every time I sing these songs, I take it seriously, like in the sacred ceremony. I just sing it how it's supposed to be sung because it's sacred to us. And this is my dad telling me that. My ancestors way back, and then my grandpas, my dad, and then maybe I'll say about 6, 7 generations. And I grew up with this. You know, singing the songs and all that. There's very sacred parts to it. A lot of people are hesitant to sing those. And fortunately, I got to know and learn those. But we don't put those sacred words for when we're doing entertainment or social.
Sure, ceremonial. There's nothing na hajna haljish kwa yedna hana adleho ndahito ka ndanchini dlido le kwa dan hidil say ndahito ka kwa
For generations, the Zuni Oya maidens have been in the ceremonial parade and performances. A photographer's favorite, their ancestors are seen in historical ceremonial photos. The women, dancing gracefully, balance treasured Zuni pottery as they dance.
From the Zuni Oya maidens, hon asi astemplan ceremonial queen detchik hon ionawa. The Zuni Oya maidens have been in the ceremonial parade for as long as I can remember. And what's unique about our dance group is we're just all women. A lot of the Pueblo dance groups have men that sing for them. So for us to be able to sing and drum for our dance group is pretty unusual. We pay homage to our ancestral women. Centuries ago, they used to bring or carry water home with large Oya jars, bigger than ours. They were huge. And this was an arduous task. They did this daily because they needed water for chores, for cooking, for sustenance. So we always wanted to recognize the women of our community because we are a matrilineal society. The symbols on the pot are created from artwork from a long time ago. Our ancestors created pottery symbols based on things they saw in nature, and they painted through that symbolism. One of the things that we always do when we have pottery is we bless it before we put it on our heads. Pottery is a part of us, so we try not to share the pottery between each other. We have our pottery specially made for us. They're concave on the bottom so they can fit to the shape of the heads. And some of the women will wet their fingers and run it around the rim of the pot, and that creates a seal on their head so it doesn't move around. I was very fortunate when I danced before I became a singer that I could balance pottery because I have a flat head. Sometimes we don't realize we have the pottery on our head, and when we take a drink of water we forget about it, and of course it can slide off and break. For us it's really devastating. We cry and we mourn the pottery because it is such a part of us. And we give it to someone to repurpose the pottery because it comes from the earth, and we can always do that. We can always remake the pottery to be used again. I think what is really nice is the camaraderie of the dance groups. When we get together and we see friends and we get to interact and mingle with them, that's one of the most precious things that we have. When we finish a song, I am asking for blessings and giving thanks that we sang and danced well.
Some tribes come to the ceremonial from other countries or continents, demonstrating indigenous connections to their cultures. The Maori tribe from Aotearoa, as we know New Zealand, perform dances known as the haka, a ceremonial display of a tribe's pride, strength, and unity. The chant poetically describes their ancestral history.
Haka Māori Cultural Experience was established in 2011. We are a composite group comprised of performers from senior Māori dance groups throughout the Waikato Tainui region, located in the central North Island of Aotearoa, New Zealand. Our members have been learning these dances since they were young. These dances remain a core part of our Māori cultural practice and ceremony and are an important vehicle for sharing our stories with the world. Many of our dances are tribal anthems passed down from our elders. Traditional Māori dance, or kapahaka, has been a vehicle behind the revitalisation of the Māori language and culture.
Despite the physical distance between us, we are strengthened by the thought that other Indigenous people continue to practice and perform these songs and dances. Collectively, we are keeping our Indigenous home fires strong, keeping the tradition of the drumbeat very strong.
Celebrating 100 years is a fantastic achievement. We would like to acknowledge the ahika, those that have kept the fires of the ceremonial burning over the last 99 years and who continue to support the ceremonial.
By coincidence, our group includes members of Te Pauamanga Tāwhiri, a cultural group that is also celebrating their 100th anniversary next year.
The two items performed today reflect the significance of the Waikato River to the tribes of the central North Island region of Aotearoa. The Waikato River was the main transport route and the main area of tribal settlement prior to the arrival of Europeans. In the first song, the performers are calling out in welcome to visitors and are metaphorically pulling the canoes of visitors towards them to gather to celebrate and to be embraced by the people of Waikato Tainui. The second item is a small part of a traditional chant that follows a canoe journey from the mouth of the Waikato River and references sites of cultural significance along the river. The ceremonial helps protect and promote our traditional arts and cultural practices. It brings tribes and people together to celebrate as a community, and it serves to remind the rest of the country of our continued presence as Indigenous people. The Haka Māori Culture Experience is happy to virtually be a part of the Gallup Intertribal Indian Ceremonial and are sending blessings to you all. Looking forward to seeing you at next year's 100th celebration of the ceremonial in 2022.
Tēnā koutou katoa. Ko tēnei mātou o Haka Māori Cultural Experience, e tuku mihi kia koutou. Tēnā koutou.
From the Arctic seas and glaciers in far north Alaska, Bamiwa of the Yupik people honor their ancestors through teaching the traditional stories and legends. Animals, harvesting, hunting, and storytelling are often the focus of their performances.
We're a Yupik traditional and contemporary performing arts group. Our style of performing is really based on our traditional dances and songs, and so a lot of them tell different stories. Some of them are, very ceremonial songs. Some songs are just about having fun and or something amazing that you've seen, or just commemorating events. Wherever you go, you take your drum with you everywhere, because you never know when you have the opportunity to drum and dance and sing. So this is a song just about keeping your culture alive and keeping that spirit of dancing just going and going. So this is Jaweka Malikaka. I take my drum with me everywhere I go.
Jaweka Malikaka, Jaweka Malikaka, Mama don't know if I would let the money I don't know if I would let money
This is next song is called Seal Boy. It's from an old story known by our elders from a long time ago about the boy who went to live with the seals, and the relationship that we've had since God knows when about our environment and how it is a teacher to us.
Thank you so much. We're Bamiwa, and we're looking forward to being with you at the 100th anniversary. But we're looking forward to sharing our culture, us being able to share our culture to other tribes in the world and other people that are not of our culture. For us, it's awesome for us to share a little bit of our home, our stories, our traditions with you all.
Chamai Huangkuta Pamiwa Kuyawikut Tanghagluchi Tamachpuchi 100th Anniversary Gallup Intertribal Center Army Koyan.
We'd like to acknowledge the heartfelt generosity of these groups sharing songs and dances. As wonderful as those were to see, imagine seeing them in person. And I hope next year you'll make plans to do just that, to visit the ceremonial in Gallup, New Mexico.
It's a beautiful realization that the songs and dances that have been shared with us have been carried on for centuries. Seeing the photos from the early 1900s really provides a historical perspective of the cultural heritage of Native American and Indigenous peoples. We are certainly looking forward to the songs and dances that may be shared at next year's Ceremonial Centennial Celebration. Perseverance and fortitude are the ancestral essence of the culture. The ceremonial illuminates the art, songs, dances, foods, and traditions of Indigenous people, and fosters appreciation and unity among all people.
I would say that it's good to understand where you come from, and especially where you live in now. Especially for me, the modern world is a little bit different from here on the res, but it's good to know that there is a life you can live on the res, and something that I guess the younger generation don't really look into, especially in the modern day world now, especially everything's kind of convenient in the modern world, AC and technology and this and that. And I think a lot of people in my age don't really want to live that life is because there's nothing convenient about it.
I'd start talking Navajo to some of my young in-laws, and some of them would say, "Oh, I'm sorry, Miss Tanner, I don't speak Navajo. I don't speak the language." And it bothered me more and more. If you can't speak the language, then you're losing touch with your culture and your traditions. So I commissioned Chester Kahn. I wanted him to put role models up there for my young in-laws. Every field that there is, science, politics, art, I've always told them, spend 9 months in the white man's world, getting your education, white man's education. And then during the summer, spend that with your grandma and grandpa, and learn as much as you possibly can about your traditional ways and your language.
A lot of those things that I learned in my education also reflects back to my mother. She had 13 children, and she also had a farm with livestock, cattle, horses, sheep, and goats, hens, and chicken, and turkeys. So we were very well knowledgeable in those areas. We didn't need to go to any place to find Walmart. And everything we needed was within our home.
I've been here all my life in a Yambato with my grandma, and pretty much the life they live is the life that I grew up into, so everything I do is still the same as today.
This Tohokan belonged to my husband's mother and father. The day that she grew up here, I don't have a running water, and I don't have electricity. They just borrow it from my neighbor. Wherever it comes, I'm happy with it, you know.
I say the importance of recognizing the culture is only to accept it for yourself, to accept what you're born into and what you are as a person, to not only, take things that you were given, but to use what you're given in the real world.
When I am weaving, I feel the connectedness to my grandmothers, to my mother. I almost hear them talking and telling me how you do it, how you think about it.
We have a responsibility to our ancestors who were so strong in our culture and our traditions, and those are still alive. I'm grateful because I know that not everyone has that.
In 2020, the COVID-19 pandemic devastated many Native American communities and forced the cancellation of the annual ceremonial. Even as we look forward to the 100th anniversary of the ceremonial, losses from the pandemic weigh heavily, but the resiliency of the Gallup community and the Indigenous people is strong and unwavering.
Well, the last 16 months have been very difficult for the Gallup community, the reservation, and it's been very difficult for Richardson Trading Post. Several of our artists, carvers, rug weavers, silversmiths, and basket makers did not survive, and that's very sad for us.
This land is Everything was okay down here, from here. I listened to the radio, and then people are, constantly going. The so-and-so died again, so-and-so died again, the young one and all that. And then finally, they find that it was COVID-19. So they have to wear masks. And then they couldn't find anything to cure. And people are just really having a hard time right here. They burying the loved ones right here, And then but finally they find a little bit of medicine right here. This is where we're at now. This is where we're at. It's gonna come up to you. That's the story of this one. When I started, it made me cry. It's the saddest thing I've done. I cry now. Even I lost my husband. That's how it's been. A year and a half. I started this one. A year and a half. But I'm going to finish it because it's getting all right. That's the school open again, and everything is coming back again. So I'm going to finish with it. I'm going to finish this one.
If we can take anything away from COVID-19, it should be that we were able to spend time with our family closer.
The pandemic, the COVID-19, has brought everything to a screeching halt, turned our world upside down, bounced us around. Now we're working our way back out of it. It's been devastating, all of us. I mean, I don't know of a family one that hasn't lost somebody. But that's the beautiful thing about the American people and people in general, but particularly the Native Americans. But shake-up we've had, but we'll get through it, because that's what we do. You know why? We don't have any choice. You just get up, you dust yourself off, and you get back after it.
As we re-enter and return to normalcy, the ceremonial event, and there could possibly be friends and family that won't be there, but we need to celebrate also their lives and their contributions and our relationships with them, and know that our ancestors are happy that we are all still together and that we are carrying on our traditions.
We pray again and again and again. Divine beings hear our prayers. One day things were normal. The next day, dark rolling clouds of sickness, worry, anxiety, sadness engulfing us all. Our whole existence as Native people has been about resilience. Monumental challenges placed on our path, we have overcome. Like our ancestors before us, endurance is in our bloodline. Like our ancestors before us, we sacrifice in this dark time so our people can live. Like our ancestors before us, we remember loved ones who have passed. You are our strength, angels. Leaders, healers, heroes, hear the children's laughter. Feel the sacred hoop bending. The holy flower starts to bloom again. This is our way of life. These songs are our prayers. These dances are our hopes and dreams that keep us strong. Like many arrows in a quiver, we cannot be broken. One day soon, we will again come together. Dance our victory dance and sing our honor songs for all. Ancestral renewal.
The ceremonial is such a vital, vibrant celebration, from its early history of tribes meeting to trade goods, then traders organizing the parade and becoming a catalyst in creating a demand for art, growing into an art market, all which further encouraged tourism. Facing challenges and always evolving, the Gallup Intertribal Ceremonial is preparing for the next century of the event.
It takes basically 300 volunteers to put the event on itself. We have somewhere around 21 committees. It takes a lot of money and effort to bring these tribes in from all over the United States to come in for the ceremonial.
For the greater community of Gallup, there are a lot of benefits that the ceremonial brings to town. not only economic impact, but the people who come and visit discover the history of Gallup and how charming Gallup actually is. And it really does bring to life the stories of Route 66.
Just come and enjoy and do as much intermingling as you can. Take in the powwow, definitely get some fry bread. Go to the rodeo, definitely take in the exhibit hall. And when you go to the exhibit hall, take your time. Spend the day there and go through it and appreciate all the love and work that went into all that art.
The interest throughout the world, Native American culture is just, it's amazing. The younger generation coming up, not wanting to lose that culture, the Native American culture, that's something that the younger generation can say, well, my father, my grandfather, and my great-grandfather participated in the ceremony, and I want to participate in it too.
For Ceremonial to keep its journey into the future, the attention needs to be paid to the roots of it. The roots always in the foundation need to be cultivated, which means that everybody's efforts are valued. Everybody's efforts are focused in on bringing this annual event to life, as well as the evolution of this event.
Well, I'm very happy that it's coming, Ceremonial is coming to its 100th anniversary. And the people that are working with the Ceremonial, I congratulate them because it's hard work. I think it's really an education for people who come there. Wherever we go away from the reservation, from the tribe, everybody thinks we're still in the boonies somewhere. And we're never seen anywhere. So I went as a representative to, here and there, and they would say, oh, you're native? You're a native? And they always said, I thought you were from Tahiti.
I believe that the ceremonial will get better and better. I think it'll become more successful because of we have a lot of new artists and young artists that are becoming very, very good.
The community at Gallup and all of the Native American artists and people, the dancers and stuff, we're gonna all come together and we're gonna show the world that Ceremonial's here 100 years and it's gonna be here for a lot longer.
Thank you for watching The Spirit of the Ceremonial. We hope you learn more about this incredible celebration, the Native American and Indigenous participants, the artisans, and the incredible community behind it. It's the countdown to the 100th, and we hope you'll make plans to attend the Centennial Ceremonial celebration and share in the spirit and culture of the many Native people who've been a part of the Gallup Intertribal Ceremonial celebratory legacy.
La belle voyons la ea he neya. She na sha la belle voyons la ea he neya. Ahala gona sha, ahala gona sha. She na sha, la belle voyons la ea he neya. Traditin atina goga na sha, traditin atina goga na sha. She na sha, la belle voyons la ea he neya.